This is a production of Florida State University.
Coming up on FSU Headlines, opening night's performing arts returns to Florida State University with a new season of shows. One student's trash is another's treasure. And the United States selects Florida State to host a major international meeting. Stay tuned for these stories and more. FSU Headlines starts now. Hello and welcome to another edition of FSU Headlines. I'm Dennis Schnitker, coming to you from inside the beautiful Ruby Diamond Concert Hall inside the Westcott building here on the campus of Florida State University. You know, one of the most exciting times here at Florida State is the beginning of a new season of opening nights. That's the name of the university's performing arts series, and the upcoming season has just been unveiled. The presenting of performing arts at Florida State began in 1921 with the creation of the Florida State College for Women Artists Series. Throughout the years, world-class talent flocked to campus to perform. And then in 1968, FSU enhanced the Artist Series by creating a fine arts festival to include national and international talent. This took place each year throughout the entire month of February, until the series ended in 1991. But good news, the Performing Arts Series was reinstated on campus in 1999 by President Sandy Dalembert, and that was the inaugural season of 7 days of opening nights, which kicked off right here in Ruby Diamond Auditorium in February of 1999. And we're pleased to have with us now Michael Blatchley, the director of Opening Nights, which will be heading into its first 21st season here at Florida State. Michael, thank you for joining us. Tell us a little bit about your role with Opening Nights.
Dennis, first of all, thank you for the invitation to join you. My role with Opening Nights is to curate a program that's going to reach the broadest audience possible within our community. That has to do with age, ethnicity, religious background, conservative, liberal, whatever it might be. So curating a program that's going to reach everybody in the community is one of our priorities.
And why does the university put this on each year?
One of the things that we find is the world is becoming a closer place for all of us. Through live performance, we can learn about different cultures, and in the coming season, there are 11 different countries represented in what we're providing. It's really important that we teach people how to understand the aesthetics of one another. Between music, dance, and theater, we do a lot of communicating, and again, looking at different cultures. Dance has a way of communicating because there's not a language barrier. Theater can reach people through the art of showing emotion, showing anger, humor, humility, compassion. Music is sort of a common language with no denomination breakdown for anybody. It just is available. Getting that out into the schools, getting it as something that the students can take away provides an opportunity to step forward with a better understanding of who we all are.
Terrific. Now here's what everyone's been waiting for. We've got some big names coming to campus this season. Tell us about the lineup.
We've got a diversity of artists coming this season that provide a little something for everyone, as mentioned before. From the beginnings of Motown with the Temptations and the Four Tops together on the same evening, all the way to a dance company, Parsons Dance Company, that's got a whole program directed towards sensory-friendly audiences that can be on the autism spectrum, that can be for anybody. We're doing a matinee for everyone in the community for $10 that will be a sensory-friendly performance. We've got Bela Fleck and his wife Abigail Washburn coming together, a duo recital in banjo here in Ruby Diamond. We are doing the Boston Pops on Tour, an evening of all John Williams film music from Star Wars all the way up through something as powerful as Schindler's List and as enjoyable as Superman. There's something for everyone. We've got artists representing solo guitar, solo violin, accordion, a classical accordionist, dance, theater, music in every genre.
Absolutely, something for everyone. Michael Blatchley, Director of Opening Nights, thanks for joining us today. We're very excited about the new season. And if you'd like to see the full season lineup and find some ticket information, visit openingnights.fsu.edu online. A Florida State University professor is on a mission to resurrect long-dead religious hymns composed hundreds of years ago by Native Americans and the Christian missionaries living among them. Take a listen.
The project is called Songs of the Spirit, the collaborative hymnody of the Moravian Mohican missions. What we're trying to do is take hymns that were composed in Moravian mission communities in the mid-18th century by Mohican spiritual elders and also German missionaries, and bring them back to life, to resound them. These hymns haven't been sung in almost 250 years. So the Moravian records are really important sources for the community at the Stockbridge-Muncie Reservation in Wisconsin in their efforts to revive the language. And that's where Rachel and I come in, because we have the paleographic training to work with the very difficult 18th century German script, and also to work with the musical sources, which are actually in the Moravian archives in Herrnhut, Germany.
I would say I'm absolutely proud, but more than proud, I'm completely honored to be working on this project. This is it's a really amazing thing when someone contacts you and trusts your skill set to be involved in a project like this. It really is an honor to kind of cross the aisle, so to speak, in the musicology and music theory world, to work on things that are brand new to me, and things that make a cultural difference in perhaps descendants, and the heritage that we're kind of tracing and laying out here can be brought to life even better because of this big project with everyone involved.
The sung aspect of all of this is so important, because otherwise these are just texts in an archive. But they were never meant to be a text. They were meant to be a sung piece of music. If you think about how much connection a text that, as an archival text can make with modern day folks, there's only so much that can mean to someone. But people connect with music. It doesn't matter what it is. If it's sounded and if it's sung, if it's played on an instrument, people connect with that. And so I think that's been a really important outcome of this project.
Meanwhile, another Florida State professor is also bringing new life to the works of an influential 20th century composer. Assistant Professor of Organ Ian Quinn received a Newberry Fellowship to study the musical archive of celebrated composer Rudolph Ganz. Quinn will prepare previously unpublished works for future generations of performers. Quinn will also author a book about Ganz' work as a musical director, teacher, and entrepreneur.
My hope is to impart this, not least through public lectures, both to our own students but also to the larger community, to say, look, these are things that we should bear in mind when we're programming, and when our own students go out and start to become involved and start leading concert series, that they can bear these things in mind. And not simply say, well, we'll do what we've done for the last 10 years because that sort of works, but we're struggling for an audience. But instead to be able to say, how about we try something that's perhaps a little more creative, in the same way that mirrors other fields in the arts.
And Professor Quinn's long-term fellowship begins in September. In our next headline, the GSO, or Group of Senior Officials for Research Infrastructures, recently descended upon Florida State University. The GSO is part of the powerful group of nations known as the G7. They were on hand to discuss the future of international cooperation in science. The United States hosted the week-long Global Science Summit and selected Florida State's National High Magnetic Field Laboratory as the meeting venue. This was the first time the group has met in the United States. MagLab Director Greg Bobinger presented delegates with a case study on international cooperation in science. The MagLab hosts scientists from around the world, conducts its own in-house research program, and facilitates outreach programs for students and the community to raise awareness about science education and research.
The National High Magnetic Field Laboratory is arguably one of the biggest and one of the most sophisticated labs in the world. We've been routinely funded by the National Science Foundation for our core grant for about 25 years. We were just refunded for 5 more years for $184 million. And the MagLab is a site that we host about 1,600 scientists and engineers from around the world that come to visit to use our facilities. And we have a standing workforce of 400 to 500 folks at any one time, scientists, engineers in our facility. So it made a lot of sense when they were saying, okay, we're going to meet in the U.S., what would be a good facility to meet at in the United States? And the National Science Foundation offered up or suggested that Florida State University, not only because of the Mag Lab, but because of the other research facilities we have, would be a good place to host the event, and we took them up on that offer.
The delegation also toured the Florida State campus, where they met with University President John Thrasher and other administrators. And continuing with the National Science Foundation, every year the NSF recognizes young scientists in the beginning of their careers. This year, a record number of Florida State University researchers received the prestigious award. 5 Florida State assistant professors received the NSF Career Award. The group gathered for a photo in the lobby of the Westcott building recently to celebrate their honors. Their work ranges from everything from sustainable energy technologies for material design to geological findings and water storage beyond the Earth's surface. The award, which is specifically for researchers within their first 5 years, brings with it laboratory funding as well as the opportunity to work closely with the National Science Foundation to refine the direction of their research.
It's big. I mean, it helps financially support the research. And so the students that work on the research will be able to focus solely on the research itself. The chemicals, the different pieces of glassware that we need to make these materials will be funded. It's also an opportunity for me to send the students to conferences to display their work, talk about their work, and as well as me going to places to talk about the results that we find from this research. So it's very helpful in many ways.
The grant will cover the next 5 years of support for their work. To read more about all 5 of Florida State's career winners, head to news.fsu.edu. And coming up next on FSU Headlines, Florida State will open a new community health center.
On the count of 3, we officially break ground for FSU Primary Health. 1, 2, 3.
To the groundbreaking of FSU Primary Health, when FSU Headlines continues in a moment.
What does preeminence look like?
Moonlight, Best Picture.
Florida State University.
When you buy a Florida State University license plate,
you're not just showing your school spirit.
You're supporting students like us.
In the lab,
in the classroom,
and in the library.
Putting this tag on your vehicle helps Florida State students achieve their dreams. So show your pride. Purchase an FSU license plate today.
Welcome back to FSU Headlines and Florida State University's historic Ruby Diamond Concert Hall. I'm Dennis Schnitker. As humans prepare to explore the moon, Mars, and beyond, a Florida State researcher here on Earth explores the effects of deep space radiation on astronaut health. Seshmi Hayes has the story.
Florida State University researcher and dean Professor Michael Delp has an extensive background in studying the human body.
Went to graduate school at the University of Georgia, and I was an exercise physiologist, studying exercise physiology. And what I was interested in was how exercise training would cause the cardiovascular system to adapt to a more healthy state.
He later began to study how decreases in physical activity and weightlessness associated with spaceflight may affect the cardiovascular system. And that's when he caught the attention of NASA, who started funding Delp's research.
This is Flight 20, yes. Well, it was my first grant. It was my first real federal grant to be able to study something related to space. You know, I was always intrigued as a kid with space, with Star Wars and Star Trek. And so to actually be funded by NASA and to start working with NASA scientists was, it was living the dream.
And Dean Delp has recently won a new grant to study the effects of space radiation on astronaut health.
Really, the International Space Station has been the platform for doing space research for a number of years, particularly for the U.S. post-shuttle. And now the space station is set to be decommissioned in 2024. Really, the long-term goal is to go to Mars. And so only 24 humans have ever gone into what we call deep space, and that's beyond the magnetosphere. And so there's this magnetic field that surrounds the Earth and helps deflect a lot of the very damaging space radiation. And so the International Space Station is within that magnetosphere, so that helps protect those astronauts a lot. And the question is, how is long-term exposure to that deep space radiation, which is more biologically damaging than any radiation that we experience here on Earth, what might be the long-term consequences for that?
He's part of a $17.7 million NASA research initiative. Delp and a group of scientists from around the country are exploring these questions of astronaut health and performance during extended missions into deep space.
So I'm going to be looking at two vascular beds that are really important in cardiovascular disease, the heart and the brain. So if you have the development of atherosclerosis in the blood vessels of heart, you can have a heart attack. If you have it in the brain, it can lead to stroke. So I'm particularly interested in how space radiation will affect blood vessels in the heart and the brain.
For FSU Headlines, I'm Seshmi Hayes.
And Delp says our understanding of space radiation and its effect on the body is lagging way behind, but he says these studies are designed to help fill that knowledge gap. Both knowledge and health will be expanding here in the Tallahassee area as the FSU College of Medicine expands, and the community benefits from a new full-service primary health care facility. University and community members break ground on the FSU Primary Health Center. The 10,000 square foot medical facility will be home to the College of Medicine's first health care center. It will be the first full-service primary care health center in Southwest Tallahassee and will cover a range of primary and behavioral health needs. University President John Thrasher, Leon County Commissioner Jimbo Jackson, and the Dean of the FSU College of Medicine were all on hand for the groundbreaking. The facility's new medical director, Dan Van Dermee, stressed a community-based focus and the importance of access to regular health care for all.
We teach our students literally on day one of medical school that a person's health is determined far more by what happens in between the doctor's visits than at the doctor's visits. And if you want to address the health of a person, you want to address the health of a family, you want to address the health of a community, you need to understand all of that. You need to understand what those issues are. And that's embedded in what we've been teaching from the beginning at FSU's College of Medicine. And now we get to practice what we teach.
Patient care in the facility will be provided by the College of Medicine's faculty physicians in both family medicine and pediatrics. Construction is expected to be complete in early 2019. A Florida State University charter school teacher has the right stuff, according to the National Challenger Center for Space Science Education. Florida State University School's fifth grade teacher, Nancy Rosenbaum, receives the Challenger Center's 2018 Innovative Educator Award. Florida State University Schools is a K-12 charter school operated by the FSU College of Education. The Challenger Center engages hundreds of thousands of students and teachers all across the country each year, but Rosenbaum's the best of the best. She claimed the award for her efforts educating students about science, technology, engineering, and math.
I think a lot of it is just all of the experiences I've had in my life. Throughout my life growing up, I was exposed to a lot of science, whether that be family vacations that took me to the mountains hiking with my family, or whether that was my brother doing hurricane tracking as a kid and having interest in the weather, right down to us watching the space shuttle launches all the time when they were happening. All those little life experiences just kind of built this passion up in me that I didn't realize I had until I started teaching. And when I got into the classroom and started teaching about these topics and realized I had a great background history of it, I thought, wow, I have a way that I can help my students really connect to the content that we're teaching.
What a great teacher. Rosenbaum has created STEM fairs, chaired an elementary science committee, and started a family science night at her school. And her students love her. Congratulations. Still to come on FSU Headlines, before students took off for summer break, the university did some spring cleaning to benefit the local community.
It is exhausting, and it is dirty, and it is rewarding.
We'll show you how Chuck It for Charity has been impacting lives for a decade when FSU Headlines continues in a moment.
Hello and welcome back to FSU Headlines. I'm sports reporter Mark Vaughn, coming to you from Joanne Graff Field at the softball complex here at Florida State University, where they will be adding some new signage to the field here. After an NCAA national championship by the softball team, the Seminoles going out to Oklahoma City and conquering the Women's College World Series. The Seminoles, affectionately known as the Cardiac Kids by fans because they had to endure and overcome 6 elimination games on their way to the championship series against Washington. And after a Game 1, 1-0 win over the Huskies, they played a bad top of the first in Game 2, giving up 3 runs before storming back to take a 5-3 lead midway through the second game. That's before powering their way back to an 8-3 win and the national championship for the Seminoles. Senior third baseman Jesse Warren leading the way all year, and of course leading the way in the World Series too. With a home run in the final game of her senior year, she was named the MVP. Head coach Lonnie Alameda with her first national title, leading the program and the ACC to its first championship in the NCAA. What a time to be a softball fan at Florida State. The Noles finished the dream season as ACC regular season and tournament champions, and of course, team number 35, the national champions. On to baseball, and the Seminoles on the baseball diamond ending their season before the College World Series in a bit of a shocker at home in the regional round of the NCAA tournament this year. Head coach Mike Martin and crew coming off an outstanding ACC tournament win in back-to-back years, getting the home field for the regional round against Samford, Mississippi State, and Oklahoma, but coming up short in their 2 games in the tournament, losing by a run to Samford in the 1-4 matchup to start the tournament, and then going on to lose in heartbreaking fashion on a walk-off to Mississippi State after a long rain delay in their elimination game just the next day. Florida State ending the year 43-19 with the ACC tournament title, and of course, Coach Mike Martin surpassing the all-time NCAA wins mark in the process. But the offseason, no doubt, will be a little bit longer because the end of the season coming a little bit earlier than expected. All right, that's going to do it for sports, but remember, you can keep up with all Seminole athletics by visiting Seminoles.com. Let's send things back to you.
All right, thanks for that update, Mark. Exciting things happening in athletics. Okay, so you know the old adage, one person's trash is another person's treasure. Florida State University's student move-out program, Chuck It for Charity, has been proving it for 10 years now. Watch this.
Students, when they are packing up to go home for the summer, they don't always take everything with them. So we give them an opportunity to donate those items through our program. And then we in turn donate everything to a bunch of community organizations in the Tallahassee area. We are very lucky to be able to work with our campus partners first and foremost here. We have lots of different students on campus who have different needs, and to be able to support those programs and those services to make sure that those students are successful is the icing on the cake for the Chuck It for Charity program.
Coming into Florida State, I didn't come in the most normal route. About 6-7 months prior to it, I was going through homelessness since I was staying door to door with friends. And since I'm part of the Unconquered Scholars Program, they actually reached out to Chuck It for Charity for me, and I was just down here on their behalf. They're like, "Do you need volunteer opportunity?" And I came here, and that's when I actually understood the value of Chuck It for Charity.
I think Chuck It really showcases and highlights what sustainability really is in terms of the 3 pillars of sustainability. So we're addressing a waste issue that is very prominent on campus, but we're also serving the needs of our campus community and our Tallahassee community in terms of all the social issues that are attached to Chuck It for Charity, and be able to provide support for some of those organizations that support those social issues. And it's a cost savings to the university, which fits into the economic pillar, and it's a cost savings for a lot of the organizations that we work with in terms of the items that they receive that they can use to support the people that they help.
I came here 15 cents, and after the Summer Bridge program, I didn't have a meal plan. And one of the things that we did in the Unconquered Scholars Program was implement a snack shelf for students to take what they need without feeling judged or without really thinking twice about it. Things that people waste and things that people throw away that they don't think they need can benefit someone else greatly, like it did myself.
It is exhausting, and it is dirty, and it is rewarding, and it is, at the end of the week, you just feel so thankful and really just filled with gratitude that we get so much support from the university, but that we can also provide so much back to the university. It really is everything for me, and I get really emotional about it every year.
I keep doing it just because there's always someone that's going to need help. People that don't ask for help, that's what I do it for. Being able to do what people need without it being said or without it being asked is why I keep coming back. Cause it can get hard out here, and it could be a little bit lonely. We can have our rough patches, but at the end of the day, we want our program to succeed, and we want students to keep coming back and be a part of our program, be involved.
Well, that's going to do it for this edition of FSU Headlines, but you can keep up with Florida State anytime on the university's official news website, news.fsu.edu. For everyone here at Florida State University, thanks for joining us. I'm Dennis Schnitker. We'll see you next time.